What if entire communities, like rich with history and culture, could just vanish? It sounds like something from, I don't know, a sci-fi novel.
Yeah, it really does.
But it's this profound, almost invisible shift that's transforming urban landscapes across America right now.
It's happening all around us.
So today we're taking a deep dive into this really complex phenomenon, gentrification. And specifically, it's truly disproportionate and impactful effect on Black communities in the U.S.
Yeah, that's the focus.
We're going to try and unpack why this is happening and, what it really means for the people living through it.
And for this deep dive, we're really leaning into two key sources. First, there's this groundbreaking new study just out this May.
Okay.
It's from the National Community Reinvestment Coalition, the NCRC, called Displaced by Design, 50 Years of Gentrification and Black Cultural Displacement in U.S. Cities.
Displaced by Design. Quite a title.
It is. And then there's an in-depth article from Capital B News that really brings those NCRC findings to life, puts, human faces to the data.
Gotcha. So data and stories combined.
Exactly. And the key takeaway, right up front, you're going to discover how America's gentrified neighborhoods have lost, get this, 500,000 Black people.
Oh, 500,000.
While gaining residents of basically every other race. And as you'll see, this goes way beyond just like painting a few houses.
Okay, let's unpack this then. That word gentrification.
Yeah.
It actually has a pretty interesting origin story itself.
It does, yeah.
It was coined by a sociologist, Ruth Glass, way back in 1964.
Right, in London.
Exactly. She saw wealthier Londoners buying and fixing up older homes in lower class areas.
And property values went up, naturally.
Right. But she immediately flagged these concerns about displacement. She worried London would become, and this is her quote, exclusively reserved for higher class strata.
And what's really crucial here is how this new NCRC study expands on that original definition. It's not just about individual house flippers, They show it's also about how urban planners and developers are actively, almost like architecturally remaking entire communities.
So more systemic.
Very much so.
Right.
And to identify gentrification and this cultural displacement, the NCRC used a really robust method. They didn't just guess.
What did they look at?
Okay, several key things. Rising incomes, obviously. Increases in home values.
Makes sense.
Also, the proportion of college-educated residents moving in. And shifts in the types of jobs available, more professional, technical, managerial roles.
Okay.
And crucially, they tracked changes in racial and ethnic composition, especially, between non-Hispanic white folks and minority population.
Anything else?
Yeah, for more recent decades, they even looked at shifts in mortgage lending activity to get that financial angle.
Right. So a really comprehensive picture.
Definitely.
So the real insight, maybe, is that what one person genuinely sees as revitalization, new life, new businesses.
Yeah, positive change for some.
Another might view as just devastating cultural loss. It really highlights this inherent tension, doesn't it?
Absolutely. It's fundamental.
And the challenge isn't just balancing, say, needed infrastructure upgrades with affordability.
No, it goes deeper.
It's figuring out who actually benefits and who ends up paying the price.
Precisely. And when we zoom out, look at the national picture, the scale of this is striking.
How widespread is it?
Over the past 50 years, about 15% of urban U.S. neighborhoods show signs of gentrification.
Okay, 15%. That doesn't sound overwhelming, maybe.
Well, maybe not as a percentage, but what's truly alarming is the acceleration. While it's still relatively uncommon overall, maybe the number of gentrifying urban neighborhoods rose sevenfold. 7 times.
Whoa, from when to when?
From just 246 in the 1970s to 8,807 in the 2010s.
That is a dramatic leap.
Right.
So what are the core forces really driving this speed up? Is it just market stuff, or is there something more deliberate going on?
It seems to be a powerful combination, really. On one hand, you've definitely got the inadequate national housing supply.
Okay, basic economics. Scarcity.
Right. Scarcity, declining affordability, construction costs are rising, so developers are kind of pushed to build high-value housing for wealthier buyers.
Right, maximize the return.
Exactly. But then you have these social shifts, too, like a renewed appeal of downtown living for young professionals.
You go back to the city movement.
Yeah, drawn to the amenities, the jobs, the cultural access, and cities themselves. Along with developers, they're actively leveraging these dynamics in redevelopment efforts.
So they're encouraging it in a way.
You could definitely say that.
Right.
And we see this concentration, particularly in cities like Nashville, Washington, D.C., other San Francisco Bay Area, Denver, Austin. They consistently ranked high for gentrification intensity in the 2010s.
Okay, so let's get to the human cost then.
Yeah, this is the core of it. The central, most sobering finding from the NCRC study is this. As hundreds of Black communities across the country gentrified since 1980. Okay. More than 500,000 Black people have been pushed from their homes.
500,000 just pushed out.
Pushed out. And in those very same neighborhoods, over 3 million new Latino, Asian, and white residents have moved in.
So a massive demographic shift.
Huge. And the racial disparity is profound. The study found, quote, no racial or ethnic group has experienced more negative impacts from gentrification than Black people.
That's a truly staggering finding. And it makes you wonder, are there counter-arguments, people who see these shifts differently? Maybe it's just natural evolution, not necessarily displacement.
Well, people might frame it that way, but the data on outcomes is pretty stark.
Like what?
Look at majority Black neighborhoods. Almost half, 47% of the ones that gentrified between 1980 and 2010 were no longer majority Black by 2020.
Almost half flipped.
Flipped. Now, contrast that. Roughly 80% of white neighborhoods that gentrified in that same period remained white.
Wow. Okay, that comparison is stark.
It really is. And connecting this to the bigger picture, the demographic trends in gentrifying areas from 1980 to 2020 are undeniable.
What are they?
Non-Hispanic, white, Asian, and Hispanic populations grew. Black populations declined.
Okay. And non-gentrifying areas.
It's the opposite, interestingly. White residents declined, but Black, Asian, and Hispanic populations saw increases.
So this raises a really important question. When we talk about people moving out, how do we even begin to untangle, someone making a voluntary choice to move versus someone being effectively priced out? Is there a clear line?
That's a crucial distinction, and the study is very clear on this. They emphasize displacement, not just residential mobility.
Okay, what's the difference in their view?
Displacement, unlike a voluntary move, is driven by unaffordability. It's when you're forced out.
Like rising rents.
Exactly. Soaring rents, maybe your rental building converts to condos you can't afford, or even property taxes just become impossible to pay. It's not a choice, it's a necessity.
Right, you're pushed, not pulled. Let's turn to some powerful real-world examples then, from the ground.
Yeah, let's do that.
Take Watts, Los Angeles. This place has such a resonant history, right? A national symbol of Black struggle, resilience, especially after the 1965 Watts uprising.
Absolutely iconic.
And Tim Watkins, his father, founded the Watts Labor Community Action Committee, the WLCC, after the rebellion. He's now battling these same forces, watching his community just fundamentally change.
Must be incredibly difficult.
The cultural and demographic shift is just dramatic. Watts was 2/3 Black in the early 80s.
And now
it's nearly 80% Latino. You see murals of Black heroes fading. Spanish language signs are everywhere. The sounds are different too, like cumbia replacing jazz on the streets sometimes.
Wow. A total transformation.
And the numbers for LA specifically are really striking. 92% of Los Angeles' majority Black neighborhoods that gentrified are no longer majority Black.
92%. That's the highest in the nation.
It's the highest. And Watts itself. Over $1 billion private and public money has flowed into properties there in the last decade.
$1 billion. So what does that look like?
Luxury condos, trendy cafes replacing longtime family businesses, and rents soaring way beyond what existing residents can possibly afford.
Yeah, the classic pattern.
Tim Watkins describes it so poignantly. He says, the war on poverty was implemented in a way that it became a war against poverty-stricken.
Oh, that's powerful.
And he notes that when gentrification comes in, that typically means the powers that be are going to object to everything that currently makes a community colorful, including us.
Meaning the people themselves.
Yeah, that really hits it differently when you hear it put like that.
It does.
And there's another perspective from Marn Campbell. She's an African-American studies professor at Loyola Marymount University. She offers this unique insight into LA.
Okay, what's her take?
She argues that Black displacement in LA often predated what we typically call gentrification.
Really?
How so? She says Black families were often replaced primarily by Latino families first, and that kind of laid the groundwork for later white gentrification.
Interesting. So a multi-stage process.
Exactly. She says, quote, in LA, displacement of Black folks predates gentrification, but it was still a coordinated attack to erase us.
Strong words. Coordinated attack.
Yeah. And she warns that similar forces are now targeting the unhoused population, many of whom are black, as LA gears up for the 2028 Olympics.
The Olympics effect.
Right. She stresses, without targeted intervention and making sure black voices are maintained and heard in redevelopment plans, black people will always be pushed out.
A sobering warning. And we see a similar kind of transformation in Washington, D.C., don't we?
Absolutely. From Chocolate City, as it was known,
Right.
to a landscape now, dominated by upscale cafes and restaurants, even legendary Sunday African drumming circles in Malcolm X Park.
Yeah.
They've disappeared. It signals a really profound cultural shift.
Yeah, those tangible markers vanishing.
Ari Teresa, he's a fourth-generation D.C. resident, a civil rights lawyer. He watched his childhood community centers, stores, just disappear.
He lived it.
Yeah. And his core allegation is pretty explosive. He says the city systematically engineered the displacement of black families.
Engineered? How?
Through policy initiatives deliberately designed to attract what they called the creative class professionals.
Ah, yes, the creative class. Heard that term before.
Right. Essentially, younger, highly educated couples, often dual income, no kids, viewed by cities as providing less need for social services, more tax base.
The ideal demographic from a purely fiscal perspective, maybe.
Right. He's actually filed a federal lawsuit alleging a pattern and practice of discrimination and disparate treatment against African-American residents.
Serious legal challenge.
And Teresa also noted something interesting during the COVID pandemic.
What was that?
He observed the city seemed to protect landlords and commercial real estate interests, even when wealthy residents were leaving the city, while they continued to burden struggling homeowners. He said, it's interesting that the city has chosen to bail them out, whereas when regular folks fall on hard times, the tack is to let them fail.
That really highlights the differing priorities, doesn't it?
It really does. And it's not just Watsu, D.C., is it? We see this pattern elsewhere, too.
Oh, absolutely. Atlanta is another key example. The old Fourth Ward there dramatically flipped from majority black to majority white after the East Side Trail of the Beltline opened in 2012. Displaced over 20,000 black residents.
20,000. Just from that one project's impact zone.
Yeah. And New York City, too. You look at Harlem, parts of Brooklyn, these informal networks of community connection, they've fractured.
How does that manifest?
Sometimes it's newcomers calling 311, the city complaint line, about expressions of Black and Afro-Latino culture, like go-go music being played outside a long-standing business.
Right. That sparked the hashtag Don't Meet a DC movement, didn't it, in DC?
Exactly. That came directly out of a noise complaint about go-go music near a new luxury apartment building. It became a symbol of that cultural clash.
Fascinating. So the NCRC study actually points to two different types of outcomes from gentrification, right?
Yeah, this is really interesting. They differentiate between what they call neighborhood rebound and displacement by design.
Okay, explain those.
Let's look at St. Louis's Lafayette Square. They frame this as a rebound neighborhood.
Okay. What happened there?
This area had seen major decline, especially after a huge cyclone back in 1896 left properties in disrepair.
So decades of disinvestment.
Exactly. But then in the 1970s, you had this grassroots rehabilitation effort, mostly by homeowners themselves.
Okay, so community-driven initially.
Right. And the result was revitalization, better infrastructure, restored homes, local businesses came back, relative safety improved.
Sound positive. What about displacement?
That's the key. Relatively modest black displacement. About a 20% drop in black residents compared to like a 50% average drop in other gentrifying parts of St. Louis.
Okay, still a drop, but much less severe.
Much less. And none of its majority black neighborhoods flipped to majority white by 2020. So they see this as a declining area, stabilizing, regaining viability, but with lower levels of cultural displacement. A rebound.
Okay, so that's rebound. What about displacement by design?
For that, look back at Washington, D.C.'s U Street Shaw neighborhood.
Which we talked about earlier. Historically black cultural hub.
Exactly. Howard Theater, Howard University right there. Here, developer-driven gentrification really took off in the 90s. New metro stations, a sports arena, convention center.
Public and private investment.
Huge investment. And this led to intense commercialization. Kind of a commodification of black culture and history.
Like using the history for branding.
Sort of, yeah. While also building tons of high-density apartment buildings. So while there's maybe superficial nods to black history, the actual physical and social landscape profoundly altered.
Diminishing the original character.
Exactly, diminishing its historical and cultural character. And remember, #MeterDC, that happened right in this area.
Right, the go-go music conflict.
Symbolizing that clash.
Yeah.
And the racial turnover here, significant.
Yeah.
Black population kept decreasing, while the white population ended up being triple the black population by 2020.
Triple.
So NCRC frames this as a profound tearing down of neighborhood connections and rearrangement of cultural meaning. Displacement by design.
That distinction is really helpful. Now, when we talk about gentrification, it's important to be fair and acknowledge the perceived benefits, right? The things often touted.
Absolutely. You often hear about improved city services, better infrastructure, maybe higher quality schools, more green spaces.
Public safety improvements.
Sometimes, yeah. An expanding local economy, potentially job creation.
And rising property values, which certainly benefits existing homeowners who can stay.
Definitely a benefit for some homeowners. But the downsides are significant, and they disproportionately affect certain groups.
All right, let's lay those out.
Longtime residents, especially lower-income renters, and, as we've seen, particularly people of color, are consistently pushed out by rising costs,
Well, easy too.
leading to a profound loss of cultural identity, the fraying of social ties, that community cohesiveness.
And businesses.
Local businesses, cultural landmarks that served the original community, often replaced by more generic, high-end alternatives that cater to newcomers.
And the crucial point is that the benefits and burdens aren't shared equally.
Not at all. Wealthier newcomers tend to reap more advantages, while the original residents, especially lower-income and minority folks, bear the brunt of the negative impacts, the displacement, the cultural loss.
Which just reinforces existing inequalities, presumably.
Exactly. Racial and economic inequalities often get deeper.
So what does this all boil down to for us? What's the big picture takeaway?
It means that maximizing profitability, which often drives these changes, frequently takes precedence over things like constructing genuinely affordable housing.
Right.
And this leads to what the NCRC study calls considerable social costs. Things like increased homelessness, reduced disposable income for struggling families, and this profound cultural displacement we've been discussing.
And the pandemic didn't help, I imagine.
Oh, it absolutely exacerbated things, pushed already high housing prices even higher in many places.
So if this is the problem, what's the solution? Or at least the way forward?
Well, it's clear that addressing these challenges requires really intentional action. It won't just fix itself.
From who?
City planners, developers, policymakers, they have to actively work to balance economic interests with the actual needs of low and moderate income households.
Easier said than done, maybe.
Perhaps. But what's absolutely crucial, if we want a different outcome, is genuine community engagement. Meaning bringing the existing residents, the people most affected, into the planning and assessment processes from the very beginning. Really listening.
To mitigate the worst impacts.
Exactly. It's essential to mitigate the worst impacts of gentrification.
Because without these kinds of measures, what's the risk?
The risk is that gentrification just keeps deepening inequality, keeps displacing vulnerable communities, and keeps erasing the unique cultural and historical fabric of neighborhoods that took generations to build.
As we wrap up this deep dive then into gentrification and its really profound human impact, it's just a powerful reminder, isn't it, that progress isn't always universally beneficial.
Not at all.
Sometimes it comes at this huge cost to the very people who shaped a community. A cost that isn't always visible just looking at new buildings or rising property values.
Yeah, absolutely. And maybe this leaves us and you listening with a really thought-provoking question to chew on.
Okay, what's that?
How can we redefine revitalization in our cities? How do we ensure it actually strengthens all residents, preserving those vibrant cultural threads that make each neighborhood unique, rather than just focusing on, say, increasing property values?
What does it truly mean to build, as the NCRC puts it, a just economy?
Right, where no community is displaced by design.
Something to think about. We encourage you to reflect on your own communities, maybe look a little deeper into the stories and the data behind the headlines.